Hi, I'm Leah Toro, and I wrote this video at 1 in the morning and it took me till 3 to finish. So you should subscribe so I can feel better about my poor time management skills. And recently, I've noticed that there's been a rise of conversation surrounding virtual influencers, given that creators like NK Mecha and Polar have been showing up and they've been getting flack for just not being good. But what I found interesting is that a lot of people are acting like this is the first ever instance of virtual influencers not only existing but also like being shit. The world and history of virtual influencers and the usage of 3D models and computer graphics in music is like vast. It goes back years, and with some there's this air of authenticity where you can really see that whoever made them put their soul and their heart into creating the best music or performance or whatever they're intending to create that they could. And with others, they're very like soulless and obviously created off the cuff as a quick cash grab. And as more people are discussing the existence of virtual influencers and bringing up arguments and problems that they have with them, what if I told you literally every single argument that's currently being had has happened like 80 times over, word for word? For that, we have to travel back to the distant and horrific year of 2016. Created by Trevor McCurdy's and Sarah Deku, Miquela Salsa, or Lil Miquela, is a fictional influencer who debuted on Instagram in 2017. And almost immediately following her debut, she absolutely took off, skyrocketing in followers as conversations surrounding her account and her as a person were on the rise. And I remember being in middle school and watching videos that were talking about the dark secrets Miquela was hiding behind her glassy digital eyes, and I was not the only person who was really interested in whatever was going on with her. There were people who were considering the idea that she was in fact a real person who just looked very strange. There were people trying to figure out why she was made in the first place. Was she another test run by Harvard? Nobody knew what she was, but it quickly became apparent that there was no dark secret to uncover or some disturbing mystery beneath her account's surface. She was genuinely just made to appear as any influencer in LA living the influencer lifestyle. And while the real reason Miquela's account and her as a creator were rather mundane, that didn't take away from the fact that she had really caught a lot of people's attention solely by existing. I mean, it's not every day that you find an account that is quite literally a real fake girl. And I'm not saying that Miquela was the first or the best virtual influencer on the market, but she was definitely quickly climbing to be the most popular because she really did take the internet by storm. She became really popular. So popular, in fact, that her creators decided that she needed 2 more digital friends. And so they made Blocko and Bermuda. So right off the bat when Jesus Christ, I hate his name. Right off the bat when Blocko and Bermuda debuted, they also got a lot of media attention, not because they were interesting or a more improved version of what Miquela was currently doing on her account, but because they were so different. Like, Miquela's entire brand is that she is this golden girl, very family friendly and interesting, relatable content creator. She didn't do anything super raunchy or particularly crazy. She was kind of just an average influencer living her life. While Blocko and Bermuda, on the other hand, were like totally different. Despite them both being rather controversial, Blocko was the more popular of the two, and that's given the criticism he's received by the media. He was this face tat having, face covering, hype beast, weed smoking, foul mouthed character who went on Instagram to be real with his Brud gang. And needless to say, people were shocked. And I say was because his account alongside Bermuda's have been dormant since 2020 and now just subtly push you to go check out Miquela's content because her page is still very active. But his account and his content mainly focused on the occasional meme, hanging out with popular rappers and celebrities that they could get to agree to sit next to empty space so they can put in a 3D guy later, and mainly just toted designer clothing. His account wasn't anything too special or spectacular, and it was seen as more interesting because his account seemed to be more drama heavy than Miquela's was. And meanwhile, Bermuda was the more controversial of the two. Once again, she was Miquela's friend and she was Blocko's ex. and this bitch lived to cause problems. From the jump, Bermuda's account focused on throwing shade at Miquela and occasionally at Blocko, even at one point hacking Miquela's account to post an expose, and then giving her the account back, and then posting being upset when Miquela deleted the post she made while she was hacked. It's like a whole thing. And also, like, canonically, in her lore, Bermuda is an ex-Trump supporter. And once again, this plays into the fact that it's meant to be this social commentary and social experiment of sorts. Because as you can see within the parallels, Blocko was meant to be this depiction of 2016 SoundCloud-esque rap culture, whilst Bermuda was meant to be the privileged white girl who had a lot of money and was in a place of privilege. And when you go onto like Bermuda's Instagram, the entire thing, like the vibes are so rancid. Not only does, this is like very minute, her model was so fucking ugly until 2019. Like when they gave her the pink and got that aesthetic down, I was gagged. I liked it. But everything before that is horrifyingly uncanny valley. Like she looks worse than Blocko and Miquela, even in her earlier stages. When the three appeared together on her page, the vibes were also just like rancid. There was obvious backhandedness and shade being thrown in the comments of the post. It's like a whole thing. It was supposed to be kind of talking about fake friendships in LA and influencer culture, because it also extended to YouTube with Blocko making videos talking about his breakup with Bermuda. And it's like, what the fuck was this even supposed to be? And occasionally Bermuda and maybe Blocko will show up on Miquela's page, but other than that, the two kind of don't really play a role into the world of Miquela anymore. The point of that word vomit info dump was so you can get an idea of what basis virtual influencers were founded on. It was giving fake people real problems as a means to garner attention and kind of build a world creating them. And they were never short on real problems. So after Miquela's initial debut, more people and companies got into the business of making their own digital influencer. And this was like a worldwide thing. People in a multitude of countries were doing this. But it was less to commentate on whatever influencer culture that was going on in LA, and more as a way of doing marketing. In 2018, Balmain, a clothing brand, had debuted 3 new models, and as you can expect, they weren't real. They were all 3D models made to show off the brand's new line of clothing. And they were made by this guy, Cameron James Wilson, who made Shudu in, I hope I'm saying that name right, in 2017, which, surprise, surprise, also sparked controversy. The sudden rise in fake models getting all these brand deals and sponsorships and attention rubbed people the wrong way, as a conversation was had about the usage of fictional black people created by real-world white men who were then, like, literally just using their likenesses in order to get money and sponsorships. And people were trying to figure out as to why companies were quicker to sponsor and hire and debut fictional black models that weren't created by black people but held black likeness, whilst real-world black models and aspiring black models weren't getting any of those opportunities. So now there was a conversation about how jobs that could have been going to real people in underrepresented communities were now being put into the hands of pixels who are made in those communities' likenesses. And this wasn't just an issue with Shudu and the Balmain model brand, it was also an issue that came up with Miquela, because there's this Calvin Klein ad that Miquela was a part of in which she like made out with Bella Hadid for like no reason, and people were criticizing it because they were like, it was clearly just added in to get a reaction out of people. And Miquela got into controversy again when in 2019 there was a resurgence in the Me Too movement as more and more people were coming forward about their stories of being assaulted. And amongst these people, for some reason, was Miquela, who made a video in which she talked about her experience being assaulted in a ride share. And whilst the story she told has like very real ground, like this isn't an uncommon or unrealistic scenario that she claimed to be in, but a lot of people felt iffy about it because there was a bunch of stuff that she could have done to talk about this movement, but instead Miquela had come up with this story, and a lot of people felt like it was only there to profit off of the Me Too movement. And the pattern of fake people taking on real issues continues with NK Mecca, that rapper that apparently lost his brand deal because enough people complained about him, when he had post up that depicted the real life issue of police brutality in a way that brought like no seriousness to the issue. Like, it was very much trying to be a little silly, taking away from the severity of the topic, and a lot of people were not into that. It was playing more into police brutality as a comedic, silly thing rather than a real-world issue of systematic abuse. And I can already hear the massive comments that are gonna be like, so you're telling me that I can't make a character that doesn't share an orientation or identity or trauma with me? I can't make characters that aren't me? And no one is saying that. Absolutely no one is saying you can't have a character who is not of your race, who's not of your orientation, or who doesn't share any kind of traumatic experience with you. The issue comes more with questioning the social aspect of these issues, as well as trying to figure out as to why they're being depicted the way they are, and the boundaries between fake people and real problems. People weren't mad at Sudu or the Balmain models because they were poor representations of black people, or they were caricatures, or looked bad. There was nothing wrong with their presentation. The issue came into the question as to why they were getting more attention than real black models that were, you know, real black people. And with Miquela, the question became as to not only why the kiss was there in the first place, like genuinely, but also as to why they chose to give her her own sexual assault story instead of using her platform to boost another real life person who has gone through that traumatic experience. And with NK Mecca, it's why does he exist? Like, I think if he wanted to cover police brutality, taking away from the fact that his entire existence is a caricature of black people, which is why he doesn't have a contract anymore, the way that he depicted police brutality and the caption he wrote was just very unserious. It wasn't really taking into account that this was a real issue. It was more of a silly, damn, the police are beating my ass, aren't they? I wish I could make fire music again. And it's like, be for real, what is this? Okay, so we're gonna move on to virtual singers. I couldn't think of a segue, and I couldn't shove this section into any earlier part of the video, so... But unlike the world of virtual influencers, the history and existence of virtual singers and pop stars is a lot easier to follow and is a lot more concise. When you think virtual band or virtual singer, you probably think of Vocaloid characters and Hatsune Miku, or gorillas, because that's one guy apparently. And because the presence of these singers and these bands are completely digital, a lot of people viewed this as an unexplored realm to create the next big thing, and they did so in the worst way possible. It's evident that Polar and NK Mecca and their creators didn't really take into account that for a digital singer to be popular and to get a fan base and, you know, be good, there had to be effort put in on a multitude of fronts. It was more than just having nice animation and okay songs. There was really a lot you have to do in terms of building a brand and an identity with these characters and their presence online and in the universe that their music is created in. But it seems like they just looked at gorillas and they looked at Hatsune Miku and said, people like them because they're digital, and then nothing else. And while NK Mecca was getting chewed up and ripped to shreds by Twitter and YouTube, Polar was getting dragged on TikTok because the Vocaloid girlies found her and absolutely, like, destroyed her. There was a lot of talk of her being just another soulless Miku clone and an attempt at getting a virtual pop star that would kind of ride the tailcoats of Miku's legacy. And not gonna lie, I kind of see where they're coming from, in the sense that when you have virtual influencers, oftentimes they will just be looking at, you know, the biggest virtual celebrity in the music industry and attempted to replicate what she was capable of. But other than that, comparing Polar and any Vocaloid character is genuinely comparing apples to oranges. Everything about them, like on a technical and physical level, are pretty different. The only thing Polar has in common with Miku is the hair color, but in terms of vocals and animation and design, there's a good series of differences between them. like how Polar is voiced by a real person rather than using a voice bank, and alongside that, Polar's animation and design is just lazy, it's soulless, it fucking sucks. And her music is definitely music, despite the fact that Polar and NK were just meant to be cash grabs and a way for brands to just make more money in marketing by using popular ideas that were trendy with the kids. It is disappointing to see them like go to shit so quickly. I feel like if done properly, both Polar and NK genuinely could have been something in the music industry. Not great, but maybe good, because they're not the first group of virtual singers. Like, there's KDA, a musical group that I am pretty sure is just a League of Legends ad that, I'm not gonna lie, has a banger song. And the animation and the designs of the characters, it's clear so much effort went into making them. But with Polar and Mech, there seems to be this disconnect where they just kind of pushed out something and said, if they don't eat this up, they don't eat this up. Not to mention, both Mecha and Polar have their own little influencer lifestyles online. Like I said earlier, Mecha has an Instagram account where he would post videos and photos of himself in a multitude of situations. And I'm not gonna lie, the animation in some of this is like, not to give him credit, but some of his animation kind of ate, unless I'm remembering wrong. And if I am, it didn't eat. The thing is, even at his worst, NECA still stood above Polar solely in quality of content. Despite NECA's personality being his personality and a strange, stereotypical portrayal of black people in the rap community, through his Instagram account, there was a clear attempt at giving him a brand and a personality, trying to flesh him out as a character to make him more likable or give him likable aspects. Whilst on Polar's account, like her TikTok and her Instagram too, it feels as though they kind of just threw her out there and are trying to just throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. Because with Mecha, at least they kind of covered up the fact that he was supposed to be a clout farm. I mean, it's obvious, but like, there's points of it that you can kind of overlook. But with Polar, from the jump, it's very clear she's just meant to go viral, and that's what they're trying to do. Her entire TikTok is just dance challenges. And you're like, oh, well, that's not too bad. Tons of people do dances and dance challenges to get popular. And that's like obviously what she's doing. All of her posts are just like lazily done animations of her doing some basic dance in an attempt to go viral via that dance, and then by conjunction have people visit her content. And there's occasionally little clips and videos where she's playing into a joke or participating in some trend that's supposed to give her this relatable ounce of personality, but it's still just a missed opportunity because there's nothing to her. She genuinely just like exists as a voice with a strange face. And I don't think that this will be the last we see of virtual influencers and virtual pop star attempts. Not by a long shot. As long as people like Hatsune Miku or bands like Gorillaz are popping off and hip with the kids, there will be an attempt by the Metaverse to capitalize on that, to varying degrees of success. I'm not gonna lie, there might be ones that absolutely go hard and are enjoyable and you can tell that there's effort put in, but as of right now, we aren't getting that. We are getting dog shit, and there could be an improvement and there could not. The issue isn't that they exist or that virtual influencers are among us, it's that the amount of care and preparation that went into creating them was clearly varied, and that there's a stark difference between the ones that had some clear effort and heart put in versus ones that are just made to try and grab some quick cash. So yeah, virtual influencers, for the most part, have always kind of sucked. If you like this video, and if you didn't like this video, you should still like it, because what's the worst that can happen? And I want to say thank you all so much from like the bottom of my heart for 7,000 of you. Hi. I'm super happy that all of you are enjoying and watching my content, and I hope you stick around for the ride while I make more. And speaking of making more content, school is going to get in the way of that. Like, I can't even promise that I'll, like, make videos bi-weekly or even every 2 weeks, because I tried doing that this time, and then I actually had to do my summer homework, and it took me 2 weeks, and I'm not even done with it yet. Just know, content is gonna take me a second. I still don't have an outro. Sorry. I should check that. I'm drunk, like maybe I should text back. You called, so maybe I should call back. I'm lost, like show me
is at. She's all like, baby, where she going now? You can leave, girl, I can get her right down. Grab a train, you can blue or going southbound. Give me time while I'm finding where my phone at.